Okay, okay. Oh, wait, shit. Wait, what the fuck? Oh, does my mic not? Oh, wait. Okay. Okay, is this working? I mean, let me, okay. Oh, it fucking is working! I'm retarded. God damn it. I was gonna say, no, I don't need to re-say it. But I did, cause the VOD's already gonna... Got a box of crackers. Really good fishing crackers. No, like, anyway, like, let me see. Garden vegetable. I don't know what that means, but it's fucking peak. Oh, anyways, yeah. Whatever. New. Alright. It's time for crackers. Okay, I have no idea what to fucking do. I should probably close this. Yeah, I probably lost it for its fucking peak, bro. Yum, 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 yum. These fucking crackers hit different, bro. Okay, the fuck is this?
Simbacourt. Simply ask.
Get the fuck out.
How do you get yours? Zero commission trades. how it is. I'm not gonna serve you bullshit. Lesson number 2 is you cannot escape programming. Games are literally computer programs. You can use visual programming languages, but you cannot escape programming itself. And for me, programming is the best part anyway, so why would you run from it? Lesson number 3 is always go in with a plan. Never make the mistake of opening a game engine and trying to learn it without a goal. You're just gonna be overwhelmed by the amount of options and information that you need to take in.
You know the Apple ID password?
No.
He doesn't know!
The first time you open a game engine, you should already have a game idea in mind, something very simple like a Mario clone or a Pong clone. Before we move on to lesson number 4, I want to give you a few tips for your first games. You need to make at least 3 very simple projects. You're only supposed to learn from them. These are not things you're going to release or show anybody, just learn. They all have to be very different from each other. For example, you can make a Pong clone and then a Super Mario clone because they are really different in gameplay terms. As a third option, you could probably make a top-down shooter or something you want to make. Here it's important to understand that your games are going to be really bad and that you're going to have a ton of difficulties. You can try to do things on your own, but if you feel too stressed, watch tutorials, man. Don't let your ego control you. Allow yourself to do hard things, just not in the hardest possible way, you know? Lesson number 4, avoid tutorial hell, please. You shouldn't really worry about this in the first 3 games that we were talking about earlier because you were just learning the very basics. But after that, it's time to be careful with tutorials that teach you an entire thing, like an entire game type or an entire game mechanic, because you could become dependent on those tutorials and never really learn how to make your own systems and your own types of games. As I said, you don't have to do things in the hardest possible way, so I still recommend you watch tutorials, but very specific tutorials like how a specific component works in Unity or a node in Godot. This way you can still avoid the stress of something that is way beyond your capacity, but still learn how to do things your own way. So to definitely escape tutorial hell, I recommend you make a 4th game. This time you can even show people and ask for feedback. But the most important thing is being something new and that you don't watch tutorials for the whole thing, just for specific things, as I said. Lesson number 5 is explore new territory. Always. When I was starting, I spent months learning Unity and I would never try anything else. I was making progress, but I felt like I was too dependent on Unity itself as a tool. And so I decided to learn Godot. It was very stressful at first, but once I understood the engine and the differences between the two, I realized that I was way better after this. Learning Godot made me value more the overall concepts of game development and programming. Godot's documentation even focuses a lot on the history of game development and why things are done, and that helped me a ton. This experience made me a better game developer all around. Lesson number 6 is focus on the process. I know this sounds cliche, but game development is a craft, and you have to focus on the craft, not on the reward for the craft. I know you want to do this for a living, but your first game is probably gonna flop financially, but it's not gonna flop in your eyes if it's good and if you learned something from it. Focusing on making better games is the only way to withstand failure and eventually achieve success. And I promise you, if you make good games, they will be appreciated. After you follow all the steps in this video, you can probably start making your dream games. But don't allow yourself to become too attached to a single game idea. Remember, you have to become a fountain for good games. Only one is not gonna get you anywhere. In the beginning, you're gonna feel like you are not ready to make that one game that you always wanted to make. But you are. It's just that you don't want that game to flop, so that's why you'll never make it. If you flop with that one, you can always make a better one, and then people will appreciate your first one because of who you are. Alright, this is your journey. Go ahead. Leave a like in this video if you want more.
I absolutely love
A coding language is how one communicates with a computer and tells it what to do and exact.
Shut the fuck
When
up,
it
I know.
comes time to begin coding your game inside of GameMaker, you've got two distinct options for coding languages. When you add an event, you're going to be presented with this question. Do you want to use GML code or GML visual? GML code is that more traditional way of coding, where you are writing text and using symbols to control everything that's happening. GML visual, on the other hand, uses blocks, and they chain together and they link in a way that is much more understandable, especially to beginners. Inside of your project, you can have both GML visual and GML code running at the exact same time. When it comes time to test your game out, all of it converts to the same thing in the end, and your game will run just the same. So you can choose one or both of them and be able to make the exact kind of game you're looking to make. In GameMaker, when you're in an event that uses GameMaker Language Visual or GML Visual, like I am in this Create event, the code blocks available to you are over on the right. Everything from the most commonly used all the way down to time sources and particles, which are specific features inside of GameMaker, are available to you as code blocks that you can drag inside. And these code blocks are what execute and how your game runs. And so you can drag code block on top of code block, and you can see that it's a visual way of representing what's actually happening inside of your game. In the end, when you're ready to run your game, GML Visual is the same thing as GML code. So you can make whatever game you want using GML Visual. When we begin coding with GML Visual, you're going to notice that there are three distinct sections that your code window is broken down into. On the left is the outline of all the code blocks you're using. In the middle are the code blocks themselves. And on the right is the toolbox that houses every single block of code that you can use. Now, let's do a little bit deeper of a dive into GML Visual. Let's first start by taking a look at the toolbox. We've been calling these code blocks because they are blocks of code, but they also go by the name action blocks. And that's because when we put one in, like this assigned variable, it is going to perform an action. So it's a block of code that does something, therefore we call it an action block. This one in particular has the name assigned variable, it has a field called name, a field called value, and a checkbox for relative. And most of the action blocks that you can use are going to look very similar. If I drag in another one, like this create instance action block, you'll see that it has multiple fields, multiple checkboxes, but it still looks pretty much the same. Now, you'll also notice that as we are building up the action blocks we have in the middle section, the outline is starting to fill up too. So every single action block that we put in the middle will be included in this outline. So it's easy to see what your code is doing at a very quick glance, because you can add many action blocks into any single event, which can make it difficult to see what's happening. To account for that, there are a few controls right up here at the top. So let's say I continue dragging in a few more code blocks, and I put enough in that it was becoming difficult to see. Well, we have some options for that. Up here, we can zoom out with this button. We can reset the zoom with this button. We can zoom in if we want to. We can also center fit, which is going to fit every single action block inside. You can also use your middle mouse wheel to do this. If you just use the middle mouse wheel up and down, we'll go up and down, you can hold control to zoom in and out with the middle mouse wheel, and you can hold the middle mouse wheel and drag this around to get to the exact spot that you want to access. And if you find you don't need an action block, you can click on it, press delete, and it will ask you if you're sure you want to delete it. Click OK, and then it's gone. I'm going to go ahead and select this bottom one, hold the shift key to allow me to select many of them at once, and then click up here and press delete. So that will actually take care of deleting all of those that I selected. Now let's do a deeper dive into the colors, because the colors of the action blocks signify what they're doing. So once you have a good understanding of a color and what it represents, it will help you find it faster. So the first color is blue, and blue has to do with setting data and variables. We have things like this assign variable where we can create or update a variable, but we also have things like setting a sprite. And the sprite that an object is controlled by a variable, and this action block controls that. There's also things for movement. So if I wanted to start moving in a direction, I would use these blue action blocks to set a direction, and I can set a speed. These action blocks control the variables for that data. The red action blocks have to do with doing something to the game and having an action happen immediately. So this action block, create instance, will create something inside of your game. We tell it what object to make, and it will create it. We can also destroy instances if we wanted to get rid of one, but we can also do other things like creating other assets. We can show and hide the virtual keyboard that's available. We can also immediately move to a point on the map. So red means that something is going to happen instantly. You'll be able to notice it. Next is green. Green is more for logic and questions. So the most common green one that you'll see will be this if variable action block. This is how you ask a question in code. By putting this inside, we can say if something is true or not true, then we can run specific code based on that. So let's say we wanted to jump to a specific point if we were next to a warp. We can actually drag this action block, jump to point, and put it on the right side of this if variable action block. And now the flow of our code has changed, and we can see that visually. Not only is the color of the line different from blue to green, it is now also on the right side of this code block. And that's because when asking a question, you can have a yes or a no answer. If it's yes, it will execute the code on the right, and when it's done with that, it will then continue on. So if I drag another assign variable statement here, I can either put it under this one, so this code will only run if this if variable runs, or I can drag it and I can put it underneath here, which then shows through this blue line that this code will continue running no matter the answer to this question. And all the green action blocks will have to do with if something is happening, like checking the value of a variable, or checking to see if a key is being clicked, or a mouse is being moved, things like that. Then, if we scroll down, we have a few more colors that are important to know about. This light brown color is all about drawing. So if I drag this one in here, this says draw value. And that means that I can draw text on the screen. We can also draw sprites on the screen. We could draw a full health bar with an action block. This is a much larger action block, but it's really useful because oftentimes you'll want to draw the health of a player or an enemy. Then we have the purple action blocks. These all have to do with playing sounds, either background music, sound effects, or anything in between. Purple is how you're going to choose when to start, how loud it is, and when you want it to stop. Gray over here has to do with loops and logical conditions like switches. If you want to do something many, many times, a loop is how you'll do that. Then we come down, and we can come all the way to the bottom, and we can find particles, this yellow action block. The particle system allows you to create really fantastic and fun particles on the fly. And all of these action blocks allow you to set the specific type of particle and how it will actually work. If you want to create snow, you can do that. If you want to create lava, you can do that too. And that's all the colors of the action blocks that you need to know about. The other thing that's really good to know is that there are two sections at the top called Recently Used and Favorites. So you'll notice that this Recently Used section is now the ones that we actually pulled up last. So if you find yourself using one frequently, check here and it will probably be right there. If you find one that you use all the time, go ahead and right-click on it and you can make something your favorite. And as soon as you do that, it lists it under the Favorites tab. And the last thing to know in the toolbox is you can actually search. So if you're looking for a specific action block and you just don't know what it is, you can just search and every action block with that name will appear. So if you know it has to do something with an instance, or you know you want to draw something, all of them will be right there. And now you're ready to go start using GML Visual. Game Maker Language Code, or GML code for short, is the language created specifically for GameMaker. To use it, you're going to write statements, kind of like you can see right.
Cat getting too cool? Give them new Temptations lickable spoons.
This is the blueprint to make your first game as a complete beginner in 2024. I'll guide you through the 7 key steps that will take you from zero, not knowing anything about game development, to hero, successfully publishing your first game. Going off the path could make you give up on your dream forever, and the first step to avoiding this is learning what not to do when starting your game development journey. Most beginners start making a game in the wrong genre. A few that beginners love but lead them to failure are multiplayer games, open world games, and RPGs. Starting your first game with no experience in one of these genres is like trying to climb a mountain without any gear. You'll die. Only professionals with years of experience and a solid foundation can tackle these challenges. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's a 99% chance you'll fall off that mountain. And this is where the second mistake beginners make comes in, underestimating how long it takes to climb that mountain. On YouTube, you usually see these 24 hours make a game challenges, guilty as charged, where the final product looks amazing, and that leads people to believe that they can also make a game of the same quality in that amount of time. What they don't see are all of the careful lies hidden behind the careful editing. The truth is that they plan ahead for these kind of challenges, they heavily edit the video to support their story, they have years of experience, and the game is usually filled to the brim with bugs that you won't see in the video. But the reality of game development is like that mountain. It's a long and hard journey filled with intense challenges that will make you want to quit at any point. But if you are one of the few that embraces those challenges, heads into the high winds with fierce determination, and reaches the top of that mountain having made a game, you won't be able to compare that feeling of accomplishment with anything else. But there's a third beginner mistake you have to be aware of, the worst one of all, not believing you can climb the mountain in the first place. There's a trend of self-deprecating game developers, and a lot of unsuspecting beginners follow these trends of negativity and end up believing it themselves. What if you were right at the start of the mountain, all geared up, excited to jump into a new adventure, when a fellow climber who's covered in bruises comes up to you and says, "It's impossible to climb that mountain." What do you think would happen. The beginner may start climbing, but halfway through the journey, doubt will start to creep in. And this is not a mountain that you can complete with a half-assed mindset. Or maybe seeing as the other experienced climber couldn't make it, why would you be able to? So the beginner climber gives up right at the start. You have to understand that the only limit to your success is yourself. If I could do it, you can also do it. I started programming in college and I learned game development all of myself by using free online tutorials. All of the knowledge that you need is out there and it's all free. Heck, I even failed my first programming exam. But even through all the bugs that seemed impossible to fix, all the sleepless nights, and all of the times I wanted to give up, I kept going. Each day I decided to take one more step, and since then I've grown this YouTube channel and have gotten some pretty amazing opportunities from game development companies. You never know what that extra step could lead to. But now that you're ready to climb the mountain, what kind of gear do you need and what's the best path to take? A lot of beginners get stuck at this stage because they can't decide what brand of gear to start with. When you make a game, you usually make it in a game engine, a set of tools designed to simplify the game development process. These provide frameworks that help you create and manage your game's assets like art and music. They take care of rendering the graphics, implementing a physics engine, and much more, so you don't have to build everything from scratch. But there's a lot of game engines out there, each one's with its pros and cons, and with a hardcore dedicated community that will convince you that it's the only right choice for making a game. Some popular choices are Unity, Unreal, Godot, and GameMaker. Each engine has tons of tutorials and courses online for virtually any kind of game you want to make. I recently made an in-depth video on choosing the right engine for you, but the main takeaway is just to try a few and see which one works for you best and for the type of game you want to make. You can make both 2D and 3D games in both engines, but for 2D games, Unity, Godot, and GameMaker are usually used, while for 3D, Unity, Godot, and Unreal are usually used. It's best not to overcomplicate it when starting out. I've seen a lot of people not even get to climbing that mountain because they couldn't decide what brands of gear or what game engine to start with. Now that you've chosen your gear, you have to find out the best way to climb the mountain with it. But you can't climb this huge mountain without having climbed smaller ones. So how do you get experience with smaller mountains? The best way is to learn by doing. And there's two great ways to get started learning an engine. The second one being my favorite. The first I recommend is to follow some tutorials or courses to recreate small games. You should aim to focus on learning how the engine works, not making the most perfect or most unique final product. The second method and the most effective method by which I learned is by joining a game jam. In game jams, you usually have a time limit and or theme you must follow. There are both virtual and in-person jams, but for easy access, virtual ones work just as fine. What I like about game jams is that it forces you to do some critical thinking on your noggin. With the limitation of time and a theme, you have to think outside of the box on how you can most easily accomplish your goal. As you're climbing that mountain, you won't always have the perfect guide around to lead you to the top, so you'll have to start thinking for yourself on which path will lead you to success. It doesn't have to be perfect. This was my first game, made in a game jam, and yes, that's my voice. I had I had followed a tutorial series to generate these boxes infinitely, and when I'd get stuck on another issue, like figuring out how to display text or play a sound, I'd just search up a tutorial for that specific problem and easily solve it. Google and YouTube are your friends. Knowing how to use them effectively will 10x your productivity and make you a better game developer. And of course, ChatGPT is also great, but until you get a good grasp of how the engine works, because sometimes it could just be plain wrong or even lead you down the wrong path of the mountain. Itch.io has thousands of free jams you can join, and there's bigger yearly ones like Ludum Dare and Global Game Jam. But there's still one big question you may have. What about programming or art or even sound design? How do I learn these things? What if I don't have experience in any of them? The simplest answer I can give is to learn. Learn the different ways of climbing up that mountain. There's a million resources online. There's no excuse not to. If you're adamant on not learning one of those specific fields, team up with someone that does know how to do them, so you can venture up the unknown path together. Important side note, if you do team up with someone, please sign a contract detailing what each person will work on and what their cut of the game will be. There are some templates online, or even ChatGPT may work, but a lot of the times you'll need to be super specific with these contracts, so a lawyer is going to be your best bet. And this is not legal advice. Also, you shouldn't use ChatGPT for contracts, but When you do this, you'll thank me later. I do highly recommend programming because it's going to be virtually impossible to make any game without some sort of programming. As an alternative, there's visual coding, where you drag blocks together and have it do certain things depending on certain conditions. But this has the same critical thinking needed as programming, so there's really no way around it. Each engine has specific programming languages, so learn the one the engine uses. You can learn it separately from the engine or while learning the engine itself. As I was learning Unity, I learned C# as I went. This was the easiest way for me, but it's gonna highly depend on your learning style. And as for art, there's no end to the amount of paths you can take. You can choose to learn 3D modeling with Blender, or make vector art in Illustrator, or even pixel art in Acifrite. My forte is programming, so I make use of a lot of art assets, which have already been made and can usually be purchased at a reasonable price. There's a lot of free ones too. Most game engines have their own stores where people can sell engine-specific assets, or there are other stores like itch.io where creators also sell engine-agnostic assets. For the game I'm making called Boombi, I personally hired an artist from Reddit to draw and animate the main character. Please wishlist the game down below. The main takeaway is that there are a million ways to climb the mountain, but the important thing is to just take the first step and learn as you go. Now that you've learned the basics of a game engine, it's time to start making a bigger game. I usually recommend starting with a 1 to 3 month small project and then publishing it online. Making a full game is an entirely different experience than a game jam. It's now much more challenging, and that's when we have to deploy step 4 of the 7-step blueprint for success: planning. And one of the best tools to do this is Milanote, the sponsor of today's video. Trust me when I say I had a pro subscription before they even sponsored this video, so I really like this product. Milanote is a visual tool for organizing any sort of creative project. It consists of boards where you can place anything from text to images to tables, and my favorite part are subboards, so you can easily keep things neat. Heck, I even wrote this script inside of Milanote. My favorite part is its seamless online collaboration, so I can easily invite my friend to my board and we can edit it in real time. They also have a ton of templates that you can use to plan your games, like this brainstorming one where you can post inspiration images and brain dump your ideas into. Once you've come up with a basic idea for your game, you can start filling out your game design document, or GDD, sort of like a blueprint for how to build your game. This can include a mood board, which is how you want people to feel while playing your game, and the color schemes you want to use, a very important step in making your game stand out among the thousands of others. From there, you can figure out the story behind the game, the characters, their relationships, the level design, and how the general flow of the game will work. They have a ton of different elements which are an easy drag and drop to use, and you can even add some handwriting to your boards. Milanote has a great starting template for each of these steps, and once you've determined the gameplay, you can easily keep track of development milestones and your budget all in Milanote. There are literally an infinite amount of uses for this tool, and they have great example use cases to help get you started. It's the tool I use for almost everything, and I highly recommend it to get started on your next creative project. You can sign up completely free with no subscription in the link down below. So now that you have your gear and you've mapped out the perfect route to take up the mountain, here comes the hard part: developing the game. You'll want to start prototyping the core mechanics of your game. These are the fundamental elements that make your game playable and enjoyable. For example, if you're making a platformer, focus on getting the player movement and jumping mechanics right first. Developing a game can be overwhelming, so it's important to balance your workload. Break down the tasks you determined in the planning stage into manageable chunks and set realistic deadlines. But there's a secret hidden rule to development that can throw a lot of people off. For any time limit that you set, make sure to extend it by 1.5 or 2 times the amount, because there's usually always a bug or something that just throws off the project. Make sure to take breaks to avoid burnout and keep your creativity flowing. Burning out is very common in this industry, so it's important that you take the necessary physical and mental breaks. You'll always run into problems and bugs during development, so you'll want to approach these with a problem-solving mindset. Think of it like climbing the mountain. There's going to be rocks or weather changes that you didn't expect, but learning to overcome those obstacles will bring you one step closer to the summit. If you're stuck, you can look up solutions from the internet or even ask ChatGPT or get help from the community. There's thousands of Discord channels with tons of people willing to help you. Feel free to join mine, which has over 2,500 game developers, and a lot of them are really nice and willing to help. But when you ask a question online, please follow this format. It is imperative for your success. Ask the question directly. Don't ask to ask. State your issue, the code or details you're having trouble with, and mention solutions that you've already tried. This is the best way to get answers back quickly. In Discord, you can even format your code with markdown so it's easier to read. You'll also need to make sure that your project files and assets are well organized. I 100% recommend non-negotiable to use a version control system like Git and GitHub. These let you push your project and changes online, so if anything were to happen, you'd always have a backup. I've seen numerous people in my Discord lose months of progress because they didn't back up their files with version control. This is also a good practice to keep track of your changes, because more often than not, you'll want to revert back to a specific change. If you find the path you were going up the mountain is blocked, you'll want to know the exact steps you took to get there, so you can recreate going back down until you find a new opening where you can branch out and continue. It's also necessary when collaborating with others. You have to make use of branches, which essentially lets everyone work on their specific parts without accidentally overriding another person's work. You wouldn't want your teammate Climber to be bumping into you, potentially causing you to fall off the mountain. Once each person is done with their features or path, you merge the changes, similar to taking a break on the same part of the mountain, and resolve any remaining conflicts. I'm working on a project with a friend, and what we do is clearly work on different scripts or scenes, which are kind of like levels, while also working in our different branches. This makes merging easier so we don't accidentally overwrite each other's changes. The easiest way to get started is to sign up on GitHub for free and download GitHub Desktop. There's multiple tutorials on how to get started. There's also Fork, a more advanced interface, or even Plastic SCM for larger projects. Or if you're feeling up to it, you can use the command line and write commands directly. But for a beginner, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, and it's not needed most of the time. Clear organization will help you stay on top of your project and easily identify any big issues. You wouldn't want your rope getting tangled on some rocks that may delay your progress for several days or weeks. There's another thing that beginners leave towards the end or even completely ignore, and some might be able to get away with it. But more often than not, this is one of the most vital things you need to keep in mind when making a game.
We, the Wanted. Azzaro Forever Wanted, the new elixir.
Optimization. Very fun stuff. Think about optimization as packing your gear for the mountain climb. Just like you wouldn't carry unnecessary heavy items that slow you down and make you more tired, you shouldn't overload your game with unoptimized assets and inefficient code. Every step becomes harder as you have a bunch of weight on your back after all. Carrying only what you need, packing efficiently, and regularly checking your supplies makes the climb easier and more enjoyable. Similarly, optimizing your game helps it run smoother, reducing the chances of weighing down your players with lag and glitches, making it a better experience for everyone. It can be pretty overwhelming to optimize your game considering all of the other things that you need to do, and I'm not going to go super into depth with this because this is a beginner video, but here are some tips to help you out. Each engine comes with profiling tools to help you find performance problems. These tools can show you which parts of your game are using the most resources, such as CPU, GPU, and memory. Make sure your assets are optimized. Large images, audio, and even 3D models can increase the size of your game by a lot and decrease performance. So make sure to reduce their sizes by using compression, or even consider using simpler models. You can also have the same model with different levels of details and switch them out in the game depending on the distance. Most game engines have a way to do this automatically, called LOD, or level of detail. Physics simulations can be very resource intensive. Try simplifying collision shapes, reduce the frequency of physics updates, and use layers or tags to manage which objects can interact with each other. Design your levels in a way that reduces the load on the system. You can use occlusion culling, which is also a built-in feature in a lot of engines, to avoid rendering objects that are not visible to the player. If you have a big map, you can also do level streaming, which only loads the necessary parts of the level. This is usually seen in open world games. A draw call is a request to the GPU to draw something on the screen. It's one of the most important numbers you need to pay attention to when making a game. Having a lot of draw calls can make your game super laggy. You can reduce them by batching objects together, which basically makes them appear like one object instead of two before sending it to your GPU, so you make less draw calls. You can also use texture atlases, which combine multiple textures into one, and reducing the number of materials used in the entire game is also good practice. You gotta make sure your code is efficient and isn't creating or destroying objects for no reason. You can use object pools to keep your spawned objects of the same type in a list and avoid having to recreate them. This is perfect for bullet shooters, which spawn a lot of bullets every second. If you plan on publishing your game to different devices like PC, Switch, console, mobile, make sure to test the game on as many devices as possible. This helps you identify device-specific issues and ensures a smooth experience for all of your players. For some of the consoles like a Switch, you'll need to purchase a dev kit ahead of the time. Unfortunately, you can't build just directly on a Switch, so make sure to look at the requirements for the platforms you plan on publishing to. For your first full game, I would target either itch.io, Steam, or mobile. Consoles usually require a bit more expertise because they have certain requirements that you have to meet. See how overwhelming all of this can be? Climbing a mountain is no easy task, but people still go through the trouble of doing it because the benefits outweigh the risk. And the biggest risk you can take in your life is not taking any risks at all. But there's 2 other risks in this 7-step blueprint that you must do while developing your game. Not doing both, especially the latter, could make or break it. When you're making a game, it can be easy to develop tunnel vision. You only see the path ahead of you, but you never look left or right to see if there's some sort of danger on that mountain that can ruin your progress. Luckily with game development, it's much easier to avoid this issue than on a mountain dangling thousands of feet in the air. Playtesting is an essential part of development, and it's something you need to do in order for your game to be the best it can be. It's when you have others play your game to gather valuable feedback and find problems you might have not noticed, which is crucial for a game that's not only polished but actually works. A lot of beginners fail to take this step seriously, and when they launch, they're surprised when little sales trickle in, and those that do leave negative reviews, which can totally tank your game in Steam's or another store's algorithm. You don't want to wait until your game is almost complete to start playtesting. You should begin as soon as you have a basic playable prototype. Doing so can help you catch major issues before you spend hours and hours and hours developing the game, only to realize that feature does not work. But where can you find people to play test your game? Your friends and family are a good starting point, but try to get feedback from as many different kind of people as possible, because usually your friends and your family are very biased towards you. They might be too nice, and they might not point out details which might ruin your game for other players. Like every time I ask my mom if my game is good, she'll just say yes all the time. You can try asking in online communities like Discord, join game development forums, and consider participating in game jams to find testers. You'll have to be ready for some harsh feedback, so just don't take it personally and just use it to improve the game as much as you can. And if you're scared of them stealing your game idea, which is very rare in general because games take a lot of time and a personal vision to develop, you can always make them sign an NDA or non-disclosure agreement. I had to look that up, where they won't be able to talk about the game or make a certain type of game for some time. There are some templates online for these kind of agreements, like I mentioned previously, but a lawyer is always the best bet. So how do you even do playtests? Well, you want to provide a simple way for them to give feedback, so you can do this in Discord, maybe make a Google form, or even have a button in the game itself that lets them give feedback. Ask specific questions to guide their feedback, such as, what did you enjoy the most? What frustrated you? Were there any bugs or things that just broke? And do you have any suggestions that I could improve on? If possible, you'll want to watch someone play your game. If you can't do it in person, then try to have an online call with them. Or if you can't do a call, just ask them to submit a screen recording. Pay attention to where they get stuck, what confuses them, and what they enjoy. And this is extremely important. Do not talk to them while they are playing the game. I know you have this little itch to tell them, oh, go over there, that's where it is. But the whole point of them playing the game is to see something that you don't see. And when you talk to them and tell them to do this or that, it completely ruins the point. So after gathering feedback, you'll have a lot of things to do, which I don't like gathering feedback because it gives me more stuff to do, but you have to do it. So you should prioritize the most critical things first, like game-breaking bugs. Just focus on the changes that will have the most positive impact to your game, because it can be hard to fix everything. There's just a lot of stuff usually. And once you do that, you'll want to playtest again and see if any new issues have evolved. It's a continuous cycle, unfortunately. On itch.io, if you have your game published, you can even have little devlogs to update your followers on new updates to your game, which I definitely recommend for some community building. You should also keep a log of your feedback and any changes that you've improved. And most important of all, make sure to express your appreciation for them. They are spending their time and doing all this work for you. You can give them money or not, maybe give them exclusive access to future builds, maybe some credits in the game they would appreciate too. Building a positive relationship with your testers is always good, because then you can have them test future games. But the final and one of the most important steps to making a game that can potentially ruin everything that you've worked on, this step is marketing. A lot of beginners don't go through the trouble of growing a community because it's a hassle. It's a lot of work, I understand. But when they launch the game, they're surprised when no one buys it. Well, because they didn't advertise it. You can have the coolest game in the world, but if no one knows about it, no one will purchase it. Even before you make the game though, you'll want to know what your target audience is, and maybe even ask some people directly what kind of habits they have and what games they like to play. Because if you have a clear idea of who your game will be for, you'll have an easier time marketing it. For example, I'm always looking at Steam and on YouTube to see what kind of genres are popular, what games are doing well, and what people seem to be asking more of. I recommend this video by Jonas Tyroller that goes into depth on how to choose a winning game idea. The moment you have a showable prototype that looks good and features the core mechanics of your game, you'll want to make a Steam page, which does cost $100, but once you make $1,000 on your game, they do refund it back to you, so that's nice. You'll want to make sure your page looks really good. If you don't know how to make a page, see how other people are doing a page and try to copy them. Not in a way where you steal it, but inspiration. You'll want to put a small trailer and some screenshots that show the gameplay in the best way. The trailer should show gameplay right at the start. No one cares about your name, about your studio name, especially of a new studio that no one knows about. So just show the gameplay because people are going to click away in literally 2 seconds. You have 2 seconds to impress people. Maybe a little longer. You want to make a Steam page early as well to collect wish lists, which is when people are interested in your game. People who wishlist your game are more likely to buy it. Usually it's around 20% of wishlisters buy the game. But the more wishlists you have, the better you'll be ranked in Steam's algorithm when the game comes up, which could be a snowball effect to get a lot of sales. Even consider translating the page to other languages to increase your audience reach. You can hire translators, use ChatGPT, or even crowdsource the translations. Then you'll want to start posting the game on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, wherever your target audience is hanging out. That's why you have to determine it at the start. Marketing is an entire topic on its own, but see how other studios are doing it and take examples from them and learn. If you don't feel like doing this, there are publishers which will do all the marketing for your game and you can focus on building your game, and they may even fund your game in advance, but they will take a cut of your game when you release it. So you want to make sure to partner with a really good publisher because it can determine the success or failure of your game. You see how this is so much work? That's why a lot of indie game studios hire a full-time employee just for marketing. But that goes to show you just how important it is. You'll usually want to reach around 6,000 to 7,000 wish lists, and that's the minimum, because with the number of games coming out each day, the competition is getting fiercer and you're going to want to have big numbers when you launch. Now, it's not necessary to have that many wish lists when launched. You can just launch whenever, but to put your game in the best possible spot, you'll want to have at least a couple thousand wish lists, because that kind of converts into the sales that you want to get, especially when you've been making a game for many months or years. But there's been success of games not launching with that many wish lists and still selling a lot of copies, so you never know. I've been advertising my game for a few months, and so far I have 2,000 wishlists. It's not bad, but I'm still working on getting that number up. And hopefully when you launch, you'll get so many sales that you'll treat yourself to a nice dinner and vacation and just relax for a while and not worry about anything. Because once you reach the peak of that mountain and finally publish your game, you'll know how good it feels and you'll want to do it all over again. It's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves. Subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content and sign up to my newsletter down below.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'm filled with inspiration. Yes. I need to get water too. Where did I put it? Did it fall? Did I? Oh no, it's right there. It was just behind my chair. Oh hey, this is my fries. Oh, but they're kind of stale now. And rubbery. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Pizza. Hi. Hi, Pizza. Okay, this just looks like nothing right now. Oh, okay, wait. Oh, no, wait. Can I... Load my balls. Absolute cinema. This is the best game ever. Best game ever, bro. Alright, okay, so the colors of a try, red! Okay, okay, I guess that's just, what the fuck? Is the editor? I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna close this for now. Okay, I think the first thing I need to do is, figure out how the fuck to make a... Oh, a note! I shitted in my pants. LOL. Okay, okay, new create sprite? Oh yeah, I already did that, I think. Create script. Okay, here we go, okay. Let me just like full screen this real quick. Okay, I should... Okay, so... Wait, I should probably figure out how the fuck to, like, actually... Like, close to us. I need to figure out how to... Actually... Okay, I need to make a fucking room. Why is there multiple rooms? I don't want there to be another room. Hold on. How the fuck do I... There. Delete. Delete. I'm gonna keep the note in though. It's funny. I think. Open editor. Ah! how my eyes burn. There we go. That's better. That's better. Okay. Okay. This is the editor. Okay. Room. Instances. Open editor. Okay. Okay, I have a room now. Okay, now make Alright, create sprite, I think. Okay, edit image. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Okay. So, wait, Control Z, to make a square. And then, where the fuck is the select tool? Hold on. Where the fart is the select tool, bro? Whoa, what the sigma? I'm not even saying anymore. Okay, there we go. Okay, and how do I move stuff? Oh, this is how I move stuff. Alright, what does this need to do? What is this supposed to do? Whoop, whoop. Bunk, 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 bunk. Okay, how do I change the grid? How do I change the size of the grid? That's what I'm wondering. If quizzes are quizzical, then what are tests, Batman? Wee. Wee. Stamp. I don't wanna. Oh wait, what the fuck? No, I don't wanna. Okay, wait, does this just move the fucking? Is there any way to fucking, How peculiar. I'm picking my boogers. How do I... Is this an animation? I don't want there to be an animation. It's stupid. Anyways, okay. I don't want to draw the... Why is this a brush? No! So, shit. Oh no, wait. I can just make... bigger. Okay, well. Okay. I got that part done. And now, I need to figure out how to fucking make it so these fucking squares aren't there. Wait. Okay. Oh. Ah. This is a very good animation. Okay, is it just like a cube? Can I only make shit out of cubes? Can I not change the fucking image? He says all frames. So is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 to the power of 2 would be that, so this one, so that would be wait. Wow. Okay, actually no. Okay, so I need to do some math here. So I want to get rid of these fucking squares, so. No, wait. Oh, that's cocaine. Okay. So, there's 16 each, so each one is 16 pixels wide, so 16 times 4 would be 64. Okay. And then wait, I'm not doing this right, am I? Okay, so 16 each square, 64, and then there's 16. So plus 16. So that's how many? Oh wait. So length times width. So that is how much shit is in one of these. So times that by 2, we get that number. So now we need to find the square root of that, which is okay. That is not right. Hold on, let me backtrack. Okay, so hold on. Okay, yeah, algebra. So what the fuck? So the square root is equal to that monstrosity. What does that equal? Okay. I'm fucking around at this point. I just fuck around. Okay, so wait. No, wait, I just need to divide this by 2. So no, but like we still. Yeah, so just 2. There we go. Yeah, I did it. I'm Homer. Okay. I feel good. Okay, heart nut. There. I made my first sprite. Amazing. I'm so proud of myself. Okay, now that I'm here, I can fucking create object. Okay, fuck, I think I fucked something up. shit. Okay. So, alright, so... Let me just full screen this real quick and get rid of this. Okay, so... What is this? No, I don't like it. Delete. Okay. So, I call this script Big Testicle. There. Big Testicle. That's what it's gonna call. I don't know if I can know the argument. Oh wait, I need to name my sprite. His name's gonna be Shart. Oh wait, no wait, can I just, yeah, okay, Shart. Shart! Okay. Wait, hold on, wait, I need to... What the fuck is a constructor? Okay, whatever, okay. Oh, that's text. I am not ready for that. So... Okay, It would be nice to see a fucking preview. Okay, okay, so okay, hold on, I gotta take a share real quick. I think I should watch some more tutorials. I should not be doing this. Doing shit like this so stupidly.
Okay, first of all, like, what is Swift Hockey?
We're a hockey stick company. We're trying to make hockey more affordable. Even if it's just one person, I want to make them join hockey and include them in the sport I love, make it more accessible.
Subreddit. This subreddit is a must visit if you're a game maker developer. With around 80,000 members, there's a high chance you'll find all the help you need on the game maker community. Just remember to review the rules section before you post there. Next up, let's look at Game Jam, GM48. Another large part of Game Maker's developer community gathers around the GM48 Game Jam, which is...
Oh, I forgot what it. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I don't want to look at that. No.
Hello everyone, and welcome to making your first game using drag and drop in Game Maker Studio 2. I'm Josiah, and what we're going to be doing today is going to be a very basic introduction to Game Maker and how to use its most important features to make your first game. So we're going to be doing this by making a very simple car parking game all the way from scratch. So if you do have Game Maker installed, you can actually follow along at home with what I do on the stream. So if you do want to follow along, I have prepared some graphics and sounds that we'll be using today. You can find a link to download those in the chat.
Wait, what the fuck? Why the fuck do I keep getting these ads?
Hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of this Idle Game Maker tutorial series. Now, since you are here, I assume you are a beginner and want to make a game using this engine, but have basic
Okay, oh wait. Oh, oh fuck. How the fuck do I get in a room though? That's what I'm wondering. Okay, so I've already done this, so. Timeline. Okay, I might have to watch a fucking video, bro. No, I don't know. I don't wanna. Fuck you. There. Sure. Will this actually teach me, or will it just fucking spit out a damn? Okay, so it's basically just fucking done for me. Great. Okay, hey, maybe I could just watch a fucking video on one of this shit. Sand! Sand!
In this video, we are going to make a game like Asteroids in 3 simple steps. We'll start with the ship's movement, we'll work on shooting and destroying rocks, and we'll create a game loop with scoring. So, let's begin. Let's open Game Maker, click on
This is not fucking help.
Hey there, I'm Uselect, and in this tutorial I'm gonna teach you how to create your first platform game using GameMaker. Before I dive in, let me introduce myself. I've been using GameMaker since I was a kid, and I developed several games like Donut to Be Seen, Starboy Adventures, and more recently, Moonleap, which won the Notice Me Game Jam and ended up becoming a full-fledged game that I'm really proud of. But enough about me, let's create a game. It's gonna be a super simple game, where you have to dodge spikes and reach the flag. Even though it's simple, it will be a great introduction to GameMaker. We will create a new blank project. I will call mine Tiny Game. And this is what you'll see once you create your project. There is quite a lot to click around here, but don't worry. Right now, I want you to focus on the asset browser, which is on the right side of the screen. This is where all the resources of your game will be, like sprites, sounds, and objects. For this project, we will only use 3. sprites, objects, and rooms. You can delete some of these folders if you want, which is what I'm going to do here. First, let's talk about sprites, which are basically the images in your game. They represent your character, enemies, items, and even the background. Now, objects. Here, we're talking about code. This is where you decide what happens when the character touches an enemy, picks up an item, advances to the next level, and so on. Speaking of levels, in rooms, you place the objects of your level, like the ground for a character to walk on, where enemies and items will be, and everything else. But right now, let's work on the sprites. There are several ways to create an asset, but right now, I will click on the empty space, go to Assets, and select Create Sprite. It will show up here, and I will name it S-Player. You can name it whatever you want, but I usually go with S-Player for the player sprite. You can create your sprite here, and I recommend that you create your own, but for this video, I already prepared mine. I'm going to click Import and import my sprites into the game. Let's create more sprites. You can right click on sprites and select create sprite as well. I will create a sprite for the item, which will be the goal of the level. Let's call it S-Flag. Now I'm going to import the sprite I made for the flag. And now for the spikes. And for the ground sprite. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, you can draw whatever you want here. To work on an asset, just double click it. That goes for all the assets in the game. Before we move on to objects, you might have noticed the origin point here set to 0, 0, and that means the origin point of your sprite is on the top left corner. We'll change that. We'll create one object for each sprite we made. Let's click Create Object. Let's name this one OPlayer and put a sprite on that object. This area here on the right is the events of your object. This is where the code goes. What happens to the object when it's created, destroyed, at the end of the game, and more. But I won't mess with them now. I will just create the other object. We'll create an object for the ground, OSolid, and assign the ground sprite to it. I will do the same for OFlag and OSpike.
No, don't.
Court. Simply ask.
I was Alex's favorite top, but then she started living it up with Virgin Plus. With its affordable phone plans and member benefit discounts on fashion, travel.
Hello and welcome to today's tutorial. My name is Joseph. I hope everyone's doing well today. So in today's video I'll be covering a skill tree setup kind of demo to show you guys how to build some skill tree stuff. Well, let me just load it and I'll show you. So this is the skill tree. So you can see I've got 4 points to spend and I've only done 2 different skills, which is health and shields, or more armor. If I click on the lower ones here, you can see I can't actually do anything. If I click on...
You have to fucking brute force it. Okay, I'm gonna put some fucking... I don't even need to look at chat. Just nobody's gonna fucking talk, bro. How the hell do I get rid of this? Oh yeah. Okay. I'm losing hope, bro. Okay. fucking. Give up, bro. I am not gonna be able to do TS.